Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's workshop. It's called From Burnout to Balance, Developing a Resilient Mindset. And my name is Kayla Becker. I will be leading tonight's workshop. I am one of the members of the Thriving Man Collective, and together we're going to be offering 4 days of content over the next week in order to talk about various topics related to our mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical wellness. And today is the first iteration of that. So as we get started, just a little introduction about myself. Some of you guys have met before in other workshops similar to this, and others are new faces joining us tonight. So my name is Kayla Becker. I am a success coach, and my goal is to help individuals find their next version of success, whatever that means for them. So for some individuals, it's related to their mental wellness and well-being. Some people have had something that has happened to them in their life before, and it is holding them back, or it's holding them hostage, or they're self-sabotaging because of it. And my goal is really to help individuals overcome those obstacles, those barriers, and really lead the life that is calling to them and that pulls at them and that lights them up. My goal is for everybody to wake up in the morning and feel good and excited for their day to come. So with that in mind, let's get started. So one thing that I know and one thing that I'm well aware of is that in our society, it's typically encouraged and it's applauded when individuals are seen as busy. And a lot of times we wear it as a badge of honor. I've been guilty of this before. I've been guilty of my family saying to me, "Oh, you're so busy, you don't have time to do this." And we feel as if we take more and more things on, it's seen as something is better about us because we're doing all these things and we're capable of handling all these things. And at the end of the day, is it really a badge of honor that we're choosing to wear, or is it something that we've been gifted by society or something that we're told we should do? And it's not a right fit for us. Some of us may have experienced burnout in our own life. Some of us may be feeling burnt out right now with how life is going for us and the different pressures and challenges and opportunities, responsibilities that we all have. So my question for you guys, and you can drop it in the chat box, have you ever been guilty of wearing being busy as a sign of honor? And who here today feels as if they have a little more busyness, they feel burnt out than what they would want to feel? So if that resonates with you, wherever you're at currently in your life, I'd love for you to drop it into the chat, and we'll see where everyone's at as we get started with tonight's conversation. So you can answer the question if you feel burnt out right now or if you've ever been guilty of it before. I see lots yes to both. Yes, thankfully not anymore. Yep, today. Chris, feel ya. Aleem, yep. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Very good. So this is a very pertinent topic for all of us because everyone here, good, maybe doesn't feel burnout, but feels pressured to be, as Gabriel says. Awesome. So it's a very pertinent topic for us because it's something that we've all experienced, or it's something that we feel pressured to be, or there's different emotions associated with it. So tonight we're going to take a different approach in looking at how can we balance all of these things to create a better life for ourselves. So the framework that we're going to use for tonight is we're going to lay the groundwork of what this means, all these terms for ourselves. We're going to do some self-assessments, see where we're at. We already have a dipstick right now of where everyone is feeling in the conversation. And then we're going to do some action steps and looking at what we could choose to do differently in the future, right? We always have choices every single day. We're always choosing how we're choosing to show up, how we're choosing to respond. You chose to come right here to this conversation, right? You decided to take this step and to be here for this conversation. You have a pen and paper, you're here listening. So that's the first step towards that action, right? So as we lay the groundwork for tonight, I want to set a couple of boundaries, a couple of different points that are true for me. And a couple of things that I know to be true is that each of us have our own level of tolerance. We each can handle different things. We each get triggered by different things. And that unique experience is part of our own joy of life. We're ever evolving, we're ever changing, we're ever growing in our own experience. So my level of stress and burnout could be very different from yours, which could be very different from someone else in your household or from your own parents. Everyone has different levels of tolerance for them. And the reason this is important, because when you're having a conversation with another individual, you may believe something or have a judgment in your head about what they can and cannot handle. And that could or cannot be true. The important thing is just to know that in our own phases of life, in our own seasons of life, it looks different for each of us. And for some of us, we are able to handle more than what we could in the past. And for others of us, we're like, nope, not doing it. I'm only taking on a certain amount anymore. So with that in mind, with that framework in place, I'm going to ask you guys to identify and define each of these terms on the screen. So on your pen and paper, or wherever you want to take notes, or if you want to contemplate it in your head, if you're on a walk right now, how would you define each of these terms? How would you define burnout? And how would you define balance? What do those two terms mean individually for you? If you're not sure how you would define it, you're welcome to go back to what are the bodily sensations that you have when you feel burnt out? Or what are the thoughts that are going through your head? What does the day-to-day feel like? Do you notice any tension in your body? What do you notice when burnout is prevalent or happening in your life? And then the flip side to that, what does balance mean to you? How do you define each of those terms specifically for you? And once you have those written down, I'd love for you to either drop your definitions for one or both of those terms in the chat. If you would like to come off of mute and share that, I would love to hear what y'all have to say, how you define those terms for you. Awesome. I see a lot of definitions coming into the chat right now. Awesome. Anybody want to share their definitions or what stands out to them? So I see Jason says burnout is having no more bandwidth. Balance is having space and breathing easy. As I'm reading any of these, or as you're reading them yourselves, if anything sticks out to you and you're like, ooh, like that word or that phrase resonates with me, it adds to my definition, it gives me a different flavor to it, or it gives me more depth, by all means, go and add that, those words to your own. Chris, did you want to share something? Maybe not. Awesome. We see West burnout is lack of focus and low energy or low enthusiasm. Balance, the ability to properly regulate internal and external stressors by throttling up and down relative to where you are currently at. Awesome. Lots of great definitions in here. You can see that there's some common themes, right? One feels a lot better than the other for the majority of us. And as you look at your own definitions, I want you to see how are those resonating with you right now? Do you feel that those are something that's accurate for you? Where do you feel that you're at? Awesome, thanks. Awesome, lots of great definitions. So I'm going to have you guys do the same activity with the next two words. So I want you to define mindset, and I want you to define resiliency. So what do these two words mean for you? How would you define mindset for yourself? How would you define resiliency? And as you establish those definitions for yourself, again, you can come off mute and share. If you feel good dropping them into the chat, drop them into the chat, please. Wes says, mindset is my captured focus. Ooh, very good. Resiliency, the ability to regain direction of interest. Getting back on course. Jason drops in, mindset is attitude and intention. Very good. Chris, resiliency is never giving up even when it's falling apart and everything is gone. Very good. So we have these 4 definitions and we have these own definitions that are true for us. What does burnout mean? What does balance mean? What does resiliency? What does mindset mean for me? Now that we have these specific definitions that are accurate for us, that resonate with us, my question for all of you guys is to rate yourself. Where would you be on the scale? So if we have a number line and we go from 1 is low, 10 is high, where do you feel that you currently are with each of those numbers? Where do you currently feel that you're at for the level of burnout? Do you feel that that's a low for you, or do you feel that that's really relevant for you right now and you feel very close to being burnt out, whether it's a 7, 8, 9, or 10? Where do you feel that you are with finding balance in your life according to your specific definition? And again, that specific definition is important because what's true for us, and we all see things slightly differently. I see some people putting their scores for where they're currently at in regards to burnout and balance, resiliency. So score each of those for yourself. And I would love for 3 people to come off, unmute themselves, and they'll be willing to share out what they noticed or what's resonating with them, what score they're giving themselves, etc. Who's going to be my 3 brave souls?
Oh, where do I put my hand up? There's a hand up button somewhere. Where'd it go?
Well, you know what? You're it, Jason. You are it.
Oh, there's the hand. Okay.
You got it. You got it. Awesome. Thanks for going first. So, Cheryl, where are you at on your scales and what's standing out to you right now?
So I think for myself, for burnout, I'm feeling about a 7. Balance is probably about a 4. Mindset's a 4, and resiliency is about a 5. I do feel as if I'm kind of on, like, from the bottom on the way up,
Okay.
because I just finished a couple months of a very busy schedule, and I can see some space opening up as far as work goes. So I'm feeling less overburdened with work coming forward or going forward. So yeah, feeling a little heavier, but I can see things getting lighter in the future.
Yeah. What would you say 2 months ago? What was your burnout score at that time?
Well, even 2 months ago would have been right before the schedule increase. I'd call that probably down only about a 4.
And then the
Before
midst of the busyness with the schedule and the projects and stuff like that.
I'd put that up Probably about an 8 on average through those 2 months.
And what did that look like for you? Like, what did you notice internally, externally in regards to?
I felt pretty scattered. I was kind of just rolling with it or flowing with it. I wasn't doing a lot of like preparation for myself. It was more reacting rather than preparing.
Yeah. Anybody else can relate to that when they're in that burnout phase? There's a lot of reaction as opposed to, any preparation and stuff like that. I see some nodding and stuff like that. What, how do you see, how was the balance at that time for you?
I think on average the balance was pretty good until the last week or two when the burnout was getting a little higher. I think the balance started to drop off then.
And then tell me about
Yeah.
the mindset. What'd you notice about the mindset? Was it specific thoughts that were going through your head? Were you
Mm,
replaying certain things in your mind over and over again?
the mindset heading into it was good. It was probably up higher around an 8, and then about halfway through it dropped down probably a couple points to yeah, probably about a 5, and then it went back up, and then just it didn't get back up to that 8, and then it just kind of went back down again. So I would say the resiliency probably followed that same like roller coaster
Mhm,
down
mhm,
pattern
mhm.
to where I am now. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Good. What's your plan to navigate going back to a better, healthier state for you? Do you have anything that's currently in mind that you're going to implement in your life to get back to that better balance, that better mindset, that better resiliency for you and lower the burnout?
Yeah. So finding more time for myself. Even today, I started getting into a 1 year goal that I had set last year for this spring was to start a garden. And
Mhm.
I was out there today and I was getting some seeds planted, getting some things ready. So I've found my way back to my previous goals that I had or my previous intentions.
Good.
I'm Tomorrow I'm going to get clearance from my doctor to go back to full work duty. So that's also a good feeling or a good boost for the mindset and the resiliency. So I
Good.
think those are the two big ones.
Awesome. And then my only suggestion to you would be, like, what's your plan to maintain that progress forward in the coming days and weeks, like beyond, like you'll obviously be out there in the garden doing things.
Hmm.
Obviously, you'll get back to work and, once you get cleared by that. And what else can you continue to add in to navigate through that or that could help buffer? Because it's going to happen again, right? Like you're going to have
Yeah,
additional workload. Like we're going to go through seasons of our life where we feel that up and down rhythm
absolutely.
constantly.
One of the things that I have been intending, and this would be probably a good springboard for that, is to start the trials again. So I've been through it once already, and this felt like a good time to start it again. So continuing that mindset and resiliency work through that with some
Awesome.
solid templates.
Yeah. When do you want to start that process again for you?
Uh, it was originally going to be this week, but I completely forgot about it. So I don't know, arbitrarily say May 1st, which is a Monday.
Yeah.
So that seems like
Awesome.
a typical way to start things.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you very much for sharing, Jason.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who else is willing to share where they're at and what they've noticed and their plans forward? Aleem said that he would be willing to share. I hope that's how I pronounce your name. And if not, you can correct me. Are you there, Aleem?
Yeah, now I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so just want to share kind of how I'm overcoming burnout. I'm actually going through, I've been burnt out before and overcome it. I've had a lot of crazy changes to my life and worked the last week to try and build a plan to overcome it. So I just want to share with the group my metrics and kind of what I'm doing that I think hopefully that others can resonate to. So I know for me, it's completely burnt out. Couldn't even think about doing any work, just unmotivated and everything like that. So I have 5 success metrics that if I do, I know I can come out of the burnout and that'll lead me to success. And not only did I make those metrics over the course of a number of days, but this time I put a metric to it that I have to hit like my daily metrics 75% of the time for the next 2 months, which I know is going to have busy periods and slow periods. So just very quickly, those 5 key success factors to overcome burnout that I measure every day that are my goals for every day are: 1, I want to wake up and do a little bit of praying and meditation, 5-10 minutes. I am going to have my bulletproof coffee, which helps me do kind of like intermittent fasting for up to 12 hours. It's kind of like a hybrid because I'm not having any carbs. Yep. And so that brain octane and coffee really gets me thinking and productive and focused. I am committed to like drinking my athletic green, so making sure I get all my supplements, my multivitamins and micronutrients and all that good stuff in me every day. Exercise every day. And the last thing that I do is plan tomorrow today. So before I go to bed, plan what I'm going to do tomorrow so that I can actually get up and get going rather than get up and figure out what I have to do, which adds to stress and anxiety, right? So if you do it before, and so those are the things that I know if I do, I can overcome my burnout and get back to a healthy state. And this time I've kind of put a metric on achieving it for 75% of the days because I know I'm not going to be able to do 100. Just being realistic with myself and giving myself a little bit of grace.
100%.
And got my whole family doing it with me. So my whole family is measuring as well.
Awesome.
And also the one other thing that I did was actually reach out to, previously I would never reach out to any friends and family or anything like that. And this time I made it a point to share how I'm feeling with people in the SFE community and other friends that I normally wouldn't, so that they can support and cheer me on as I kind of overcome the stress period in my life.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Aleem. And, you touch on a lot of key points. Sometimes for some people, having those daily markers to check off helps alleviate stress because they're doing those things that benefit them. And other times having more things to check off lists can be more stressful for individuals. And that's where finding that perfect balance for you stands out. I would agree that we all need to find ways to limit our stress because as I was telling a client this morning, I can't tell you that you're never not going to be stressed, right? Like we're all going to be stressed at different points in time. Even if you go to the gym and you're working out, you're still stressing your muscles in order to grow your muscles, right? Like we're always going to be experiencing stress in different ways, shapes, and forms, different intensities, different things are causing it. What we really need to identify is what's stressful for us, what's a healthy level of stress, right? Going back to our own definitions, going back and really growing that self-awareness. So that's really the point of this exercise from my vantage point is understanding how we would define these terms for us. And then also being able to be self-aware enough to recognize like, ooh, today, Kayla, like your stress is really high. What are you going to do to help you alleviate that stress? And if you just burn through the day or you burn through the week or you burn through the months and you add more and more and more stress on without growing that self-awareness and choosing to do something different, right? You're creating more of a problem rather than using that self-awareness to your own benefit. So as you listen to individuals share, as you look at your own self-awareness scales and you reflect back on where you are right now, we're going to be doing this later in the next exercise, but really being aware of, am I mindful when I'm stressed that I'm doing something to alleviate it and to weather the storms, because the storms are going to be there. It's how we respond to everything that makes a big difference. Chris, you have your hand up. What would you like to share?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We all can
Oh,
hear you.
great. Hey, well, thank you for welcoming to this session over the next 4 days. As far as burnout goes,
Yeah.
yeah, I am. And the reflection and the resilience in establishing those boundaries in, scaling burnout of what I think and what other people think around me from that reflection of establishing where resilience lies in what I sacrifice in my personal life through friends and family to give to that collective or community through job, not necessarily career, but also that mindset that the SFE is helping me develop towards more career than job to find that balance between service and sacrifice.
Mhm.
It's been hard last 3 years and I am done. I am sick. I'm tired. I'm burned right out. This COVID thing, the band administration, the governance code, everything, just too much. And I need to balance it out somewhere.
So what's the
Well,
first step for you then?
is just, changing this mindset and finding that balance and getting into that libido and getting my muscles and strength back and dieting with the libido and dating and back into the community rather than being so hyper focused on just job.
So what's the first step with the mindset then? Like you're obviously self-aware that you have some burnout and there's some things that have happened over the last 3 years that have precipitated, created, instigated X, Y, and Z to happen. So what's your next step with improving that aspect of your mindset?
Definitely nutrition, spirituality, getting in contact, language, other languages, cultures, just a more holistic approach rather than such a lineal manliness thing. Talking with women, and they're so what's that word, Sarah? Cyclistic? Cycle? Like phases of thought patterns where our job is so lineal we can just burn ourselves out, where females tend to change their mentality a little bit more in like 4 seasons to a month kind of a thing through a period, menstrual cycle, ovulation, where the mind wanders and deviates away, and that reflects through body language and reflects where the mindset changes, because the mindset is a lot of reflection, that energy, those words, that sounds, the environment, all of these things. That's what I'm trying to find some balance in my life in this new career. And it's a struggle, coming out of burnout like that and aging. yeah, that's why I'm here, is to listen, and just wanted to let you guys know where I am and why I'm listening.
I appreciate that. One thing that I know is true for me, and I know is also true for other people, that language makes a big difference, right? Like how we talk to ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive the situations around us make a big difference. And one thing that I do daily, I've done it for the last several months to improve my own mindset, and I would offer this as a tip for everyone, is I have one of these little counters. I don't know if you guys can see it. And they use it, I don't know, sports people use it, I think. I don't know what else to say, but it's like a clicker. And I have a big dog. I have a German Shepherd. So I take my dog for a walk. I take this with me. When bouncers use it. Yeah, you're right. They use it to like count people coming into bars and stuff like that. Thank you, Chris. And you take it when I take my dog for a walk. I take it when I drive to the store, when I drive to the yoga studio. I take it with me often. And I take it with me because whenever I have it with me, I constantly say kind things to myself to help me improve my mindset. So Chris, like one thing that you could say to yourself on repeat is, I am improving my mindset. Click. I'm improving my mindset. I'm improving my mindset. I'm improving my mindset. And I just say whatever sentences, whatever phrases, whatever affirmations come to me And I say it again and again until another one pops up that feels more pertinent to me. And that allows me when I'm on a walk, because I don't want to have other information coming into me. I would prefer to listen to the birds. I'd prefer to be out in nature. So if I'm driving, no music on, this is what I'm doing. If I'm out walking my dog, this is what I'm doing. I may look silly. People see me talking to myself and I don't care, because what it does is I'm at 1,300 for today, which isn't that much. Usually I'm over 2,000. But like I'm at 1,300 kind comments that I've made to myself that help me improve my mindset. Whether it's saying like I'm figuring it out, or I'm finding ways to relax today. Whatever resonates with me at that time is what I use. And this allows me to keep track, like my own accountability tool, similar to what Aline was mentioning before. So Chris, this could be something that could be helpful for you, is purchasing something or somehow keeping track of comments that you're making to yourself to improve your mindset, because we're all talking to ourselves all day, every single day. And if you constantly are telling ourselves, or if we're constantly telling ourselves like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. Oh my God, I'm so stressed out. Like, how am I going to figure this out? What am I going to do next? How am I going to make time for everything? That constant cycle that's going through our head is not helping us solve the problem. It's only making us feel worse about the situation and putting us into a deeper hole. However, we can remind ourselves, I'm figuring out, I'm staying calm in the situation, I'm going to choose how I respond. It's going to change our focus. It's going to change whatever our attention is on. So that's one thing that I'm a big fan of. So if that would resonate with anyone, something like this would be a great tool. Or if you just want to walk and talk to yourself and say kind things to yourself, it's also great. So those are some other thoughts, in addition to like what Aline mentioned, making sure we're fueling ourselves well, which is Nick's going to be talking about some of that tomorrow with the physical side. But really knowing for you, as we get into this next question here coming up, like, where are you at right now? And then what do you want to do about it? Right? Like, we all are growing our own self-awareness of what this means for us and what this stress looks like for us. The powerful thing is being able to choose something different. Because a lot of times it may feel that everyone around us is stressed. Everyone around us is under a lot of pressure. Everyone around us is fill in the blank, whatever it feels like for us. But that doesn't necessarily mean that being stressed out, being busy all the time, that isn't, just because it's common doesn't mean that it's normal. Right? You think about that with different health conditions. Just because a high proportion of people have high blood pressure or diabetes, or they have cancer, doesn't mean it's normal for people to be that way. And the same thing can be true for us. Just because it's been common in our life up until this point to feel a certain way or to respond a certain way, doesn't mean that it's normal for us, and doesn't mean that we want it to be normal for how we respond to various situations. Brand, I purchased it on Amazon.
I agree, Kayla. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you were done speaking. Are you done?
Yeah, go for it, man. Floor is yours.
Like, to change that, when you're talking about the mindset and where my goal setting lies, and some of the other stuff that Jeff and Jess were talking about earlier in August or maybe December, was to plan for career. As far as, yeah, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm looking for something else, I'm wanting to have more balance in my family and give back to the community, more or less just job. So as far as improvement goes, yeah, you're 100% right on waking up with that mindset, and a positive playback on a video of something that gets you up and going, and ambition. And whether or not that's part of day-to-day life that reflects on my mindset to have the ambition to keep going with that, it's overwhelming for me sometimes. Improvement Institute Limited is a new mandatory entry-level driver training program that the government has installed for class 1 drivers to prevent accidents from a bus crash in Humboldt, where some kids were killed in a horrible wreck. I'm sure you've heard about the Humboldt crash, but anyway, did my class 5. ITC, and I'm here in Langley, BC now doing my ITC class 1 for this week for that goal setting for career planning as far as what week 1 and week 2 and week 3 were with the trials. I chose a bad time to start the trials, coming out of wrecking boats on the beach and having a 5-man crew working around tidal waters, the ocean and the rain, the wind, the storms, fighting with administrations between themselves and the First Nations and trying to learn their culture, their language, their family, their history, their rules, territory, governance code, in lieu of taking trips to the museum, digging through archives while having this job. And I just hurt my body, I hurt my spirit, I hurt my mind. I dug up things in my own past and own history that were unanswered since high school as far as spirituality and culture goes, with having some Indigenous background.
Chris, can I pause you for a second?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
even though all of that happened, and I'm not going to negate that any of that happened, I'm not going to negate that any of the stress that anybody feels hasn't happened. What I'm a big believer in is that, like, right now, this second, you can choose something different. Like, you recognize all that and you could say, you know what, I can't change that. I can't. Like, what's done is done. That's a fact. What I can do is I can do something for a minute before I go to bed tonight that would help me put me in a better mindset. Like, I could listen to a video, I could say some positive affirmations, I could look back at what I wrote down today, and then maybe tomorrow I do it for another minute, maybe I decide to do it for 2 minutes, right? Like, the time doesn't have to be an hour, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes. All you need to do is start. And I don't care if I tell my clients, like, I don't care if you do it for 30 seconds, I just want you to do it. I want you to do it, and then I want you to do it tomorrow, and then I want you to do it the next day, and then I want you to do it the next day. Because as Matt mentioned in the chat, like, you're disrupting the pattern. You have to somehow break the pattern, whatever that means for each of us. I talk about it like a snow globe, right? Like, we've all seen those little snow globes. And I want you to pick that snow globe up, and I just want you to shake it. And I just want you to get something different, whatever that means for you. So if that means like 30 seconds, cool. 30 seconds is more than what you did the day before. Great. Tomorrow, do it again, and then do it again and get the reps in, because we can't change everything overnight, and we can't, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing to say, like, we've done something for a long period of time. We can't assume that we're going to suddenly change it overnight. That's not how things typically work. Yes, miracles happen. Yes, things can happen very quickly. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of things take time and hard work and effort, and it's going to feel uncomfortable, and it's not going to be what you want to do. And yet you still stick with it, because you just see the end in mind is bigger than what the present feeling is, or the present discomfort, right? Like, doing it again is going to be even better. And I say this not just to you, Chris, I say this to anyone on the call or anyone that listens to the recording. Like, it's all about choosing to do something different. Like, you have your scores, everybody has their current level of stress. So if you know it, what do you want to do differently in order to get a different outcome in the future? And maybe it's a little thing, maybe it's a big thing. I don't care what size the thing it is. I just care that it's something different, to try something different. And it may not work the first time. Cool. Try something else the next time. There's lots of letters in the alphabet. There's 26 in the English language. Just keep going through all of them, and then double them up if you have to. Like, that's what it's about for me. So I hope that helps, or I hope that gives some glimmer of understanding. And if you want to follow up after this call, I would love to follow up with you on what you were mentioning, if that sounds good to you.
Yes, Kayla, that's part of me. What I've been learning through, like, the VARC system, and that follow-up is, how do I learn? Visually, auditorial, read and write, kinesthetically. I pick up most of my stuff, 50% of it, through my hands-on. And
Awesome.
in this, it's great coaching, like the 80-20 thing. It's all feedback on coaching. So the 20% that I give you and the 80% you give me back as the student, vice versa. Like, when I tell you something, that's this mindset that I get from listening to you guys, from the reflection that I put out.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah.
Then
And
we'll
it
be
helps
following
me.
up then. Thanks.
Yeah, it helps me. It does, big time.
Good. All right, everyone, you're back on your pens and papers. I want you to define busy for you now. Busy, busy, busy. How do you find the word busy? What does busy mean to you? It's a 4-letter word. Some of those 4-letter words are the best. And then once you've defined the word busy, I want you to tell me how busy are you right now on a scale of 1 to 10. What number would be your level of busyness? And then third question is, what is a healthy level of busyness for you? We're all going to have things on our plate. We're all going to have things on the calendar. We're all going to have things that are expected of us. What is a healthy level of busy for you? Awesome. I see some responses coming into the chat. Very good. And then what I want you to reflect on is, why is there a gap between where you are right now and what's a healthy level of busyness for you? Is it because of boundaries? Is it because of unrealistic expectations? Is it because it's hard to say no? Because a closet people pleaser? What's the reason why there's a separation, a disconnect between the two? But I see Brand has, he's at his current level of busyness, and that's the same thing as ideal for him. And this is something for everyone to reflect on, because same with the level of stress, we're all going to have stress in our lives. We're all going to be busy to some extent, but what is a healthy level for us? And how can we become more aware of when we're leading ourselves to a level of busyness that's going to lead us to exhaustion or burnt out or one of those things, and is going to take us away from some of that joy that we feel in life. So thank you guys for sharing out here in the chat. I see a lot of responses coming through. And just being aware of this, in my mind, is the first step, because once we're aware, we can decide if we're able, if we want to choose to do something differently, or if this is where we're at right now and we need to find ways to navigate through it. Now, when we think about busy is a word that my family always used to describe me, especially my brother. He'd be like, oh, you're too busy to do this, you're too busy to do that, you have a lot on your plate. And it always bothered me, because I felt that I always made time for the things that were important to me. But from the perception of others, it was that I was too busy. So I want you to think about your own language that you use when you are talking about your level of responsibilities. Do you say that you're too busy? Do you say that your life is full? Do you say that your days are very active? Like, is there a better way to frame it for you that would change your mindset around what is on your plate? And does it mean that we're just like coding it in a different way? That's not my intention at all. My intention is, how can we frame what we're choosing to do in our life and know that we're choosing to do all of it, right? Like, you're choosing to stay in your job to do certain things. You're choosing to make this a priority over something else. Even if we don't want to make those differentials, we are making those choices every single day. And I think sometimes, Aline mentioned this earlier, planning your day before your day even starts is a great tool. Planning your week before your week starts is a great tool. Planning your month before the month starts is a great tool. One guy that I listen to all the time, his name is Jim Rohn, bless his heart. He's passed, and he talks often about planning things before it even happens so that you can execute it well. And sometimes some of us, right, we can all be guilty of not having all of our ducks in a row. And that's why we kind of spin around in circles and things are even more stressful. Yeah, and max 100%. And some of that comes down to knowing what your values are, right? Like identifying your top 3 values is something that I would even recommend to Chris as he's looking for a different job or a different position, or all of us, like, what are your values and are you living yourself in alignment with that? Aleem, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's comments on busy. I just want to share a little bit different perspective. I'm hesitating to say it, but I hope
Bring
you guys
it.
appreciate it. I hate the word busy. I hate it. And I've taken it out of my vocabulary like many years ago, because busy doesn't mean you're doing good things or bad things. Busy means you don't know what you're doing. In my world, in my mindset, busy means like, what are you doing that you're busy? You're either doing something productive that's value add and you're doing the right things, and you can be overloaded and time crunched for those productive tasks, or you can be doing nonsense and socializing and watching hockey games and watching movies, and there's a time and place for all of that. But if you're just busy because you can't add or subtract or you can't get to the right things, that's a poor excuse. So I don't like the word busy. It's either you have too many commitments or you're not being productive, or you are or you're not. I think there's just any other word is a better placeholder than busy. Because if somebody tells you they're busy, well, what are you busy doing? Are you too busy for, like, what's busy? Right? Like if you can't plan your day properly, like, what's happening? Sorry, just a little pet peeve. I'm sorry. I hope that doesn't derail us, but thank you for just letting me get that out.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. And I think it brings up a really good point, right? Like we all have different words that can rub us the wrong way. And we all have different words that resonate with us differently, and some things bother us and some things feel good. And that's why each of those definitions for me is so crucial, because how we each define it and how we each have it shaped in our mind is what's most important. And that's what's going to set up the framework for how we perceive our life, is how we perceive ourselves in relation to those words. Yeah, and Lulu says the way I frame it is, for me, is I have decided to intake a lot on my shoulders for this week. Yeah, everyone has a different definition and how they perceive it. So being aware and choosing words that feel good for you, busy, active, full, whatever that means for you, regardless of the word that you choose, intentional, being purposeful with your time and just making sure that we're using our time well for where we want to go, as opposed to running around in circles because we haven't created systems and practices that are good for us to get our desired result, whatever that looks like for us. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to do another activity, another thing for you guys to reflect on and you grow your awareness of. And it's all about, just as everyone's definitions for what they can handle is different in regards to stress, in regards to burnout, and in regards to balance, in regards to resiliency, in regards to busy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The signs that each of us experience or that other people say about us are going to be different, right? As we're getting close to being burned out, it's going to look differently for me as what it does for Jason or Aleem or Chris or Marcus or Lulu, right? Everyone is going to respond to things that are happening to them differently. So my questions are going to be in regards of how are you, sorry, let me move this so I can see it better. So my first question is, what are the signs that you are burnt out or you're very close to getting burnt out? Maybe it's something that you feel internally in your body and you're like, ooh, like I'm going down that path. Or maybe it's like thought patterns that you have. Maybe your schedule changes and you typically work out in the morning and then you decide, you know what, I don't have time to work out in the morning anymore. I have to get right to work. Or maybe you start skipping lunch, or maybe you become short with a spouse, or maybe you start buying a lot of energy drinks. Like whatever it is that you start to do, what are the signs that you can start to notice and be aware of when you're starting to lead yourself on a path that maybe isn't the path you want to go on? And Chris says, Chris, is that feeling like you might be, I'm assuming like starting to feel like you're being taken advantage of? So what are the signs? What do you start to notice? And even like, what do you start hearing people say to you about how you're acting? If there's any people that kind of like make comments to you, spouses, people that keep you in check, family members, employees.
I think, Kayla, it's getting taken advantage of when you give somebody an inch and they take another inch and they don't know the boundaries when to accept that little bit of gratitude and quit and just keep asking for more and more and more because you keep giving it.
So then it would be like, to some extent, the signs are like that you don't maintain the boundaries then either. Like they push against the boundary and then there's not like a firm line that you put in place.
Correct.
Yeah. Awesome. That's a great realization to have. Not cooking my own meals, anxiety, depression, self-centeredness, irritability, harsh short with others. Awesome. Thank you guys for poor sleep patterns. So as you start generating these signs, the importance of this is if you know the signs, and if you can develop your self-awareness of your own signs that show you that you're going in a direction that you maybe don't want to go, you can then be more aware to choose to do something different in those situations. But if you're not aware that you're starting to get burnt out, or if you just completely ignore it, you're not able to change the trajectory of your path. So the second part to this is, now that you know some of your signs, what do you typically do? Like, do you notice these signs, or are you like, no, Kayla, I just realized that these are the things that I typically do when I start to get burnt out. I've never noticed it before. That's fine. That's cool. Write that down. Now you know. Now you can choose to do something different. So tell me, what's your past practice when these signs happen? Maybe you get irritable and you argue with the person. You say, you know what, like, I'm not doing that. I'm fine, right? You ignore the situation. Maybe that's your past practice. Cool, write it down. So when you see these signs, what do you typically do? Is it helpful for you? If not, what would be an improved response? Doesn't mean it has to be great. Doesn't mean it has to be perfect. Just what would be an improved response? And then the last part to this is, how can you use these feelings, these reactions, these things that come up for you as guideposts, as clues to do something different?
Hi, Kayla. Can I just share something? Because this is a part that I do struggle quite a bit with.
Yeah, bring it, Lulu.
So the signs that I typically see for me is I get mad at myself because I'm burning out instead of giving myself grace and understanding that, you know, I do intake into a lot and whatever. So I get angry at myself for burning out, right? And what improves that response is literally, I am so harsh on myself that the only thing that it will improve it is if I some way somehow have a night of crying out and say, fuck it, I'm going to do it all over again tomorrow. Right? Like I do find myself in that pattern of like, yeah, I cry, whatever, well, suck it up, tomorrow will come and you're going to do it all over again. You're not going to let yourself burn out.
Is there anything that you could do earlier in the day? So like if the feelings are building during the day, that you don't have to wait until the nighttime to like allow those feelings to escalate for the 8-12 hours that they escalate until you arrive at home, in bed, or wherever you are, and then you like let the tears flow? Is there something that you could do like over lunch to like, like just stop it before it gets to that point?
I do catch myself that once too, is like meditate, but I run away from things. That's like I'm done. I run away from it, even if it's a weekend or whatever, that I run away, which is something that I get even more angry at myself, because I'm like, that's 2 days that you could have done something. That's where I find myself being so harsh on it. And I don't know if anyone else has that problem and is that harsh with themselves. That's why I wanted to share it.
Yeah. Being self-critical is common, right? We're typically way more critical of ourselves than we are of anybody else in our life. Higher expectations for ourselves than what we would have for somebody else. It's very common, whether, it's our mental, physical, emotional well-being or anything like that. The suggestion that I would give to you at the time that we're allotted is, that about yourself, and how can you disrupt the pattern earlier? What are some like the trigger words or the trigger thoughts that go through your head where you're like, ooh, Lulu, you're being critical, like you're being overly critical right now, and maybe it's a conversation you have in your head, maybe it's something else. Like what do you notice? Because typically these things are not just like one-off things, right? Like they're patterns that we've developed over time that cause us to respond a certain way. So whatever that looks like for you, can you disrupt the pattern at 5 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock? Can you disrupt the pattern at 4 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock? Like just small wins like that to do something a little bit different. And then what would be ways that you could be kinder to yourself? And that could be kind comments to yourself. That could be finding ways to add in relaxation, or ways to add in like self-care for yourself that doesn't have to be like one time a month or whenever it happens. That could be, like eating really healthy food or moving your body to move the energy out of it. Because a lot of times, right, when people go to the gym, they're actually getting a lot of frustration and anger out of them, that it's a therapy session in its own way. And how can you find other ways to help yourself?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So as you look at your own, I see things coming in the comments. I apologize, I can't read all of them out loud. What I want everyone to take away from this is everyone's definitions of each of these terms is different. Fact, right? We can see it in the chat box. We can hear it in people's sharing. We can see it in other people in our life. Everyone has different definitions of each of these terms. Everyone's at a different point in their life. First step is being aware of it. How do I define these terms? What does it mean for me? Now that I know what it means for me, what am I choosing to do in each of these situations? And would something else be a better choice for me? What are some of the signs that are coming up for me? If you know the signs, you can start to identify them when they happen and mentally create a different pattern. So one thing that's not listed on here on this slide is, like if this sign comes up, what's your better choice, which is alluded to in one of the questions, but how are you going to snap yourself out of it is really what it is. If this is how you're acting, if this is what you'd rather do instead, what's the bridge between the two of those for you? I mean, I had like a friend that would wear like a rubber band on his wrist to like help him like physically snap himself in order to change the mindset. And that was like his mental switch for him. So it's just like finding what's your mental switch for you that can help you perceive or change the situation. All right, so as we wrap up tonight, as we look at like language, how do you want to frame it? What are the words, what are the definitions that feel best for you? What are some of your own beliefs versus what society says about what you should be or what that should look like for you, whether it's burnout, whether it's balance, whether it's busyness, like identifying your own definitions and just knowing that what's common for other people doesn't have to be common for you, and setting your own standard is what's key in my mind. Knowing how you self-sabotage yourself if you get into these patterns and it's hard to get out of it, being aware of what that self-sabotage looks like for you, or how other people could contribute to your self-sabotage by pushing boundaries, as Chris said, then knowing how you want to respond in those situations. Then be aware of your fears, because I think sometimes we can be afraid of breaking our own patterns and doing something different, because who am I if I'm not this person that is constantly doing this and that for these other individuals? Then who am I? And do I have value? And am I important, or am I sloughing off? So being aware of those fears that be coming up for ourselves is also just an important thing to be aware of as well. So with all that being said, we're going to have time for questions at the end if anybody has any, but I know we're a couple minutes over time. So thank you guys for sticking with me. So at the end of these 4 days with myself, Matt, Jen, and Nick, we're going to be doing an online retreat for 2 different dates, May 20th and June 3rd. It's the same continuation. So it's a 2-day online retreat that we're going to be continuing this conversation about integrating and embodying your own process, whatever that means for you, wherever you are on this journey with your mental, emotional, physical well-being, whatever that means for you. We're going to be talking about that on these 2 dates. If you're interested in joining us, the investment is $199. I'm going to drop the link to sign up into the chat box. If for some reason you are unable to snag it, or if you have any questions, you can email us at the Thriving Man Collective. We'd be happy to answer all of your questions. And this online retreat will be hosted by all 4 of us, digging deeper into all the topics that we talked about tonight, tomorrow, and then next week as well. So with that being said, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. You're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to continue your evening. Thank you guys for joining us. You're welcome, gentlemen. You're welcome. All right. It seems like there are no questions at this time. If you do have questions, please email us at Thriving Man Collective. Otherwise, Nick is going to be here tomorrow night to talk about the physical side of all things. And I look forward to seeing many of you at our online summit in a couple of weeks. If you have any questions, let us know. All right. Bye, guys. Have a great evening. Thanks for participating.